What's up, Vinyl Community? Clip the Vinyl Cheapskate. Doing a Sunday coffee music. Hope everybody had a good week. Having a good weekend so far. Caught the end of a Mr. Bizarro stream yesterday. That was fun. But anyway, main reason we're here, I'm doing a video about bands that blend, records that blend genres. I saw Marty Worm's stream from last week on heavy metallurgy, and I watched the whole thing this week, and it was really interesting and cool. He had Matt from the Dark Path on there, another metal YouTube channel. I'll leave a link for his stuff down below, and I'll leave a link to that video down below. Monday, I got to see Merciful Fate, which is pretty sick. A friend of mine from Philly had called me and said he had an extra ticket. His wife wasn't going to go. His wife was going to go and then decided she wasn't. So last minute at like 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, I decided I'm driving to Philly to see Merciful Fate. So that was pretty sweet. I got a sweet poster from the show. So I'm going to hang that in the... Got one spot in my corner over there with nothing in it. So this is going to go there. But pretty sick, great show. Also, there's a video floating around online that is like the whole show from Philly. So I might put a link to that in the description as well. So check that out too. But yeah, gonna do a video about genre blenders, kind of riding the coattails of the heavy metallurgy stream last week, not this week's. Still need to watch this week's. But yeah, bunch of records. I'm not doing all metal. There's some punk in here. There's some... it's mostly metal and punk, but we're gonna go kind of some different routes. Like this band that I'm listening to right now. This isn't really a genre blender too much. This band did... Early on, they did more like stoner rocky kind of, always instrumental, but that's Earth. And the record that I'm showing is the Hibernaculum record. This record, just really good, chill drone. It's almost ambient. It's kind of hard to put these guys in a category, so that's kind of why I picked this. Some people classify them as doom metal. I don't know. They're not really that metal. They could be post-rock. They could be indie rock if you considered it. They're drone for sure. Ambient. All instrumental. Earth is great. Dylan Carlson's one of my favorite guitarists just because he makes just droning, holding out notes that just makes it interesting. But really, really good. Good record. As you could hear, it's very chill. This is my chill out morning music today. With this cool inner. And this was like, they had been a band in like the 90s. All through the 90s. And they took a long break. And this was one of the ones when they came back, I think. But this is a great record. Next, I'm going to bring up another one that's kind of in that same wheelhouse, kind of. And these guys are from the same area. Earth's from Seattle. They're a Seattle band. And I believe so are the Melvins. And this is another one, especially on Lysol, especially where the Melvins blend styles a lot. Lysol's the one I'm showing. This is a double. What's the name of this one? Eggnog EP, and then the Lysol LP. But the Melvins are one that are kind of hard to categorize. You could just categorize them under stoner rock all day if you wanted, but there's a lot going on in this band. There's some grunge elements, there's punk elements, there's doom metal and sludge metal elements. There's electronic elements in this. Melvins blend a ton of different styles. One of my favorite bands from way back in the day. This is when I was in high school. When I was in middle school, I was obsessed with Nirvana. Like a lot of middle school kids who would be in middle school in like 2000 or 1994 would be. But I started deep diving into their catalog of bands that they were influenced by. It's probably where I found out about Earth, and I found out about the Melvins as well. So that's another. But the Melvins really hit me back in high school, and when I heard them, they really blew my mind. Like middle school, high school, when I started diving into the stuff that Nirvana kind of influenced Nirvana. Now let's talk about another one that's kind of in the doomy territory, but this one I think is going to surprise people that I think it's a genre blender, but that's Black Sabbath. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. This album has a lot of really like early heavy metal sounds because Black Sabbath, they're the early heavy metal kings, but also on songs like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Killing Yourself to Live, Spiritual Architect, Looking for Today. All that's got a lot of like proggy elements in there that you don't hear a lot on other Black Sabbath stuff. Also, this has some blues rock in there. It's got heavy guitar riffs that are just straight up rock and roll. And of course, it's heavy. There's some heavy metal in there, early heavy metal sounds going on because it's Black Sabbath. But this one is actually a super diverse album. And like I said, I think there's a couple styles going on in here. There's, like I said, some prog rock in there for sure. There's keyboards on this one. This one's kind of all over the place. Love me some Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, though. I think this is my favorite Black Sabbath record, just in general. And I snagged it for $10. And that was years ago. That was probably like 7 years ago. Or more, maybe. You know, I lived in Maryland because I bought it from Celebrated Summer. Alright, well, let's do one more older record that I think is a genre blender, and another one that might surprise people that I think it's a genre blender, but maybe not. But that's Talking Heads, Speaking in Tongues. I think this was where they started leaning more into the pop sounds. They were always kind of a poppy band, but I feel like they definitely started coming out with more disco and like that kind of stuff, leaning into this middle era. You know, they got a little more groovy, less on the punk, because they were always kind of like punky in my mind, but alternative as well. But Talking Heads are all over the place. Talking Heads were the first band I ever loved. When I was a little kid, I used to listen to this in my dad's car radio when it would come on, and I loved it. Like Burning Down the House, the He's Just a Baby song, which isn't on this one, but that was another one that I loved when I was like a little kid. But yeah, Talking Heads, Speaking in Tongues, definitely a genre bending. Hard to really consider where to file this. I file it under my punk, but you could easily file this under pop rock or rock easily. But Talking Heads, alternative, you could file this under alternative if you wanted. It's just Talking Heads are hard to categorize, so that's why I picked that one. Another one, and this was a weird mix. A weird mix, I feel like. Not that weird mix, but kind of a weird mix. So that's Murmur's Bull of Crete album. Or is this their self-titled, what they call it? I think they call it Bull of Crete's one of the songs. I think this is Murmur. I think it's their self-titled, because there's not really anything but Murmur on the side here. But this is a great record that gets overlooked a ton. This band blends like atmospheric black metal with straight up like 70s prog rock stuff. Really, really cool. They actually do, they do a cover of Lark's Tongue and Aspic Part 2. And it's great. This band, I think, did a great job where like they have like straight up black metal songs, and then it'll go right into like a straight up, like almost straight up prog metal song with some post rock in there. They mix a lot of stuff in here, but they did it really well in my opinion. And I feel like this record gets overlooked a lot. I feel like this record didn't do well because it's so out there. It's so different than most other black metal stuff that's going around. And if you don't like prog metal and like King Crimson and stuff, you won't like this. But if you like black metal and you like King Crimson, you'll probably like this. Check this one out. Murmur's self-titled album, Gatefold. But this is a sick one. Really, really good. Now I'm doing 10 of these, so bear with me. Another one. These ones kind of blend the same, so I'm going to show them one after another. But bands like Blasting Concept, and I was going to show Annihilation Time, but I showed them a bunch. I show them all the time, so I've decided to go a different route. Blasting Concept, who I feel like is a little brother to Annihilation Time, they play like really rockin', groovy, hardcore punk, but it sounds like it's more mixed with like 70s biker rock or something. Same with this band here, the Maneaters, and this was ex-members of Kulo and Tarantula doing like sleazy 70s rock and punk rock mixed. This might go on next, but I think I've showed this before. But Maneaters, really, really good stuff. Same with Blasting Concept. Both of those, great stuff. Blasting Concept as well, if you could find these guys. They've got a couple 7s out. Maneaters also just put out a new record last year, and I haven't picked that up yet, but I'm planning on it. Got 3 more, guys. Now we're getting a little heavy, moving on into the 90s here. And that's Man is the Bastard. Man is the Bastard plays really noisy, heavy, kind of grindy. Everybody says they're the birth of power violence, but they strike me different. They hit me different than power violence does most of the time. This is a collection of the splits that they did with Capitalist Casualties and Bleeding Rectum stuff. But this is my favorite material by this band. That's why I pulled this one. But they get into noise and like sludge. Really hard to categorize where you put these guys exactly. I always follow them with my punk records, but they could easily be followed with metal records or experimental or something like that. Man is the Bastard's great. On these two, I believe there's no guitar on these. I think it's all bass and drums. I'm not 100% on that, though. There might be guitar in there and I'm missing it. Or it's just super down-tuned and sounds like a bass. But really distorted, dark sounding stuff. This is a cool record. Came with this awesome inner. Got sick artwork on there. This is one I bought, man, years and years and years ago, and I've loved this band ever since. Give me a brief moment here, guys. I'm gonna flip that record. So, all right, I'm back. 2 more records, and then I'll stop my babbling. Here's another one where I think it could be filed under punk, it could be filed under metal, but that's Dystopia. A lot going on with Dystopia. Definitely some punk in there, definitely hardcore, a little bit of sludge and doom metal in here. And nobody sounds like this band. in my opinion. So much anger in here, it's crazy. I picked this one because this one even has like little bits of like acid folky parts in the beginning of one song. It's a weird album. It's a great album. It's not weird to me anymore, but this is the OG one. And I also have the Tank Crimes one because the Tank Crimes collects a bunch of the EPs that I didn't have. So now I have 2 copies of this. And this is OG from 99 or something like that. Or whenever this came out, I forget. But I bought this a long time ago from a punk rock flea market from someone I still talk to today, actually. Like, I bought it from him. Bought it from this guy because he was like the crustiest looking dude at the whole flea market. And bought that record from and the other Dystopia and a couple other records, I forget what they were. All like super punk stuff that I really wanted. I think I bought a Misery, Production Through Destruction there, but I sold that record and I regret it. Still, that's another one where it's one like my Totalitar Disclose split. Went to rebuy that and it blew me out of the water. Same with Production Through Destruction. That one's not coming back anytime soon. But last up, one more where it's more punk. This is probably their most punk record, but also still mixes a bunch of stuff. But that's Amoebic's Rise. And this thing, if you can't tell, this thing's been through some stuff. And I bought this new a long time ago. Oh, I do have the 7-inch in there. Look at me. Came with a little bonus 7-inch that lives inside of there. As you can tell, I was a little partied on because, like I said, this is my original copy from when I lived in punk houses. It's in good shape, though. But Amoebics do an interesting mix between punk and metal where they're more along the lines of like mixing like, I'm gonna try and get this right, probably some like, there's some Celtic Frost feels in there, there's a very much like Motorhead feels in there, but like street punk feel a little bit in here, and some post-punk and the goth elements in here. Very dark sounding band. Good Motorhead riffs on a lot of these songs, at least in this album. This is probably their most well put together album. Monolith is really good too. Monolith is a little crustier sounding. This is probably their best, like most well put together album. They did another one in 2010 and that one was okay. It wasn't a great album. It was a good album. I enjoyed it. A lot of people don't like it at all. But Amoebic's Rise, real blender of a band right here in my opinion. Probably the start of like that, it's the start of that apocalyptic crust sound. There's bands that try to do what Amoebics have done and come close but not quite as good. But anyway, that's my 10 genre blenders. Like I said, I got the idea from Marty Worm's stream, which I'll put a link to underneath so you can watch that. It's long, it's like 4 hours long almost. But I watched it throughout the week, this week, in little bits and snippets, but it was good, enjoyable. They definitely stayed on the more on the metal end of things. I went a little more punk with my picks, but that's it. Anyway, you guys got any genre blenders? If you do, show them. Let me see them. Anyway, cheers.